Thank you to the Isaac Regional Council and the Regional Arts Development Fund for helping me bring this story to you. Today, I'm catching up with Kate Everett after another incredibly successful Do It For Dolly Day, a movement that has grown from unimaginable heartbreak into one of Australia's most important conversations around bullying, mental health and kindness. What began in memory of Dolly Everett has now helped educate families, schools and young people right across the country. Kids are safer, more supported and more aware today because of the impact Dolly has on their lives. Kate joins us today to reflect on this year's campaign, the progress being made and the important tools Dolly's Dream now offers to help families navigate bullying and the pressures young people face today. Kate, hello. Thank you. Oh gosh, your life is such a whirlwind. I don't know how you keep up with everything.
Sometimes I don't either. Thank you for having me again.
Oh, Kate, look, I don't think we caught up last year. Things just go so quickly and we get so busy with stuff that's going on. But I thought it was high time we had a catch up.
Thank you. I appreciate that. To be honest, I don't know if we caught up last year either, because it has been a very hectic couple of years.
Yeah, yeah. And Kate, this is the very first interview I've done with my glasses on, and we were just saying how crappy age is.
Absolutely. I can take mine off, but look, there'll be a vague screen in front of me. So
Me too, me too. But anyway, and as you said before, you get to the stage where you don't care anymore. So,
absolutely not.
oh gosh. So Kate, 8 years. This is the 8th year, isn't it, of Dolly's Dream, which was last week. What changes have you seen, and how from when you first started Dolly's Dream to today? What are the biggest changes and influences that you've seen?
Oh my goodness, there's literally been so many. I think if we just start at the very reason why we started Dolly's Dream, after losing her in such tragic circumstances, I think one of the biggest changes is the number of schools that are working with us and are doing our workshops, but not just doing our workshops, really doing that whole school approach where we're going in and we're offering mental health first aid training, to teachers, and then we're doing our workshops at every, that are created at every age level. And the focus is on self-worth and kindness and cyber safety. So it's this really whole school approach. So that's one of the most massive changes. But I think also we felt so alone and absolutely lost for support and help. And I think with the creation of Dolly's Dream, last Friday, you would have seen plenty of blue. I hope your social media and your communities were all as blue as possible. And, just uniting an entire nation over a cause is incredible. And it's still just, oh my God, it nearly makes me cry every year, to see, the level of interaction, and especially in rural communities. And as you know, sometimes the services available to us, and especially for our young people, are limited compared to those in metropolitan areas. So, it's just, I think they're some of the most incredible changes that we've seen in the last 8 years.
Right, I guess you have to keep evolving too as society evolves, because I was thinking last night when Dolly passed away, social media wasn't as big. It was just probably coming into action. And so how does that shape where you go?
I think that's probably something that I've touched on in a lot of conversations over the last few years, and I would say to people, um, you know, technology wasn't all that, like, kids weren't as fascinated. Um, we were still dealing with those Wi-Fi systems where, you'd get your Wi-Fi for the month, and if anybody watched a video, boom, it's gone. And so we were, the girls didn't have a lot of Wi-Fi at home. It's not like now where it doesn't seem to matter where young people are or where anybody is really. There's always accessibility. But I think having that in mind, and watching the progress of technology has been at the forefront of what we're doing. And so we have played a massive role, and we keep advocating for, that safety by design in big tech, and holding big tech accountable. And, it's going to be one of those things that we have to keep staying on top of. AI, for all the amazing things AI can do, it it really poses a massive threat in the wrong hands, or utilised incorrectly, or opens a whole another can of worms for young people and technology, I think.
Mm-hmm. And it's great that for for the community to know that you guys are on top of that and you're ahead of the charge, and coming ahead through and supporting what is to come, and aware of that, because you've got to keep thinking ahead, haven't you?
Absolutely. And I think, there's been a lot of conversation about the social media ban the government brought in last year. And, there's a lot of criticism for it and how it was rolled out. And I just kind of, I do see the perspective of, I've got nieces and nephews that were on that age limit where, they might have been kicked off platforms because they were under 16 and then turning 16, a few months later or whatever. But I really do want parents to look at it and think this is just another tool to put in your toolbox. So, you can navigate and just go, well, you can't have that, until you're 16. And I really do worry about the effects of that drip fed social media, that constant dopamine hit, what that does to a developing brain, and what long-term effects we'll see in 10 years time, sort of thing. So yeah, there's things like that are controversial, but I think they are important. And look, I wish that it was around when my child was, because I think it was 13 they were able to have it. And quite honestly, if it was a conversation where it was like, you're not allowed to have it till you're 16, it would have just been, you know, something we didn't have to talk about. Would it have removed other stuff that was going on? Not really, but it would have been one less thing to worry about.
I think, and I know it's a Dolly Stream is is something that brings all of Australia together and supports all of Australia, whether you're living in remote Australia or in in cities. But I think for bush kids that have come through the distance education system, they're not equipped to go to boarding school and be bullied. Do you agree? Like, I think that's one disadvantage and that our kids face when they do go to boarding school.
I think they're just very different children, and you would know. I mean, there's an expectation from when they're very little. We raise them with we've all got to get these cows mustered, or we've all got to do these jobs if we're going to go to this camp draft, or so they're very adult in the way that they think. they're very responsible. Quite often, by the time they go to boarding school, if your children were anything like mine, they could already drive a car or maybe the body truck, and they can ride a horse and lead three other horses. And these are, while we look at it as everyday things, they're massive life skills, right? So to put them into a situation, and especially if we wind the clock back sort of 10 or 15 years, putting them into that peer group with limited adults, and then you throw in technology, I think, is a challenge. And now where the expectation is that all kids are on, Snapchat or some form of social media or whatever it is they're using at that point in time as it keeps evolving. I think you're right that because of the expectations they've been raised with, they're quite often really not prepared for what they're going to, that peer pressure and that different type of interaction that they're going to face at boarding school. It is a very real challenge.
How do you think we prepare them for that, Kate? Like, is it just through communicating with them and telling them that this might happen? Or how do we teach them to rise up above that?
I think really open communication about how it is possibly going to be is important. We're actually in the process of developing a program that we're going to call Bush to Boarding, which I am really excited about. And so it will help in the preparation, especially around that technology space, how to prepare them in a way that I guess they understand how to use and be safe on with their technology, what their sort of expectations around boarding, and hopefully taking parents along on that ride as well. But I do honestly think it all comes back to communication, and reassuring them that because there is, kids out there that are being mean or creating, tough situations, that doesn't mean they have to be part of that. Communication is everything. I think as long as you've got that open door policy with yourself and your child, I think that's really important. It's going to be different for every child. You can have kids that go and flourish and love it, and you have those ones that just don't fit in. And I feel like I verged on being one of those kids. I feel like I struggled right till the end of year 12. I couldn't wait to get out of there. But I think as parents, though, the other expectation that we need to let go of, if it isn't right for our child, then it might be okay to choose another path. I know we don't have ag colleges anymore, and whereas that was always, a given if you weren't an academic when we were growing up. But what other possibilities are there if your child is not academic and not flourishing in that boarding school environment? As a parent, letting go of those ideas that, this is the only option. They're only a good human if they reach all these goals. Whereas, if they get a trade or they start another job or finish by distance ed, these are all good things. We had a rule in our house: you're either earning or learning.
Hey, like, what happens to us in our childhood, what people tell us, whether they're, our peers or adults, we take that into our adulthood. And I want to tell you this story because a couple of years ago I had my 40-year school reunion. Anyway, there's two friends that I have that I'm really close to still, and we catch up, reasonably regularly. Anyway, we were having this conversation, and one of my friends, who's done very, very well in life, said that this one girl triggered her seeing her at the reunion because she bullied her so badly at school. And there was one particular instance where this girl pushed her head against the locker. And anyway, so my friend went home and she said to her dad, her mum was away, she said to her dad, I don't want to go to school tomorrow. And he said, well, you don't have to, but I know something's happened. So, you know, and I'd like you to tell me what happened, but if you don't want to. Anyway, she told him, and he said, well, you don't have to go to school tomorrow, but you do have to get out of bed and you have to put one foot in front of the other. And she said that was the best advice. She did go to school and she, you know, but she said she tells her kids that now when they're going through a tough time. But anyway, we'd never had this conversation before. And I said, why didn't you tell me this 40 years ago? Because I've gone through my life thinking that, you know, there's something wrong with me and they don't like me. And you could have told me, because then I wouldn't have felt like that. But it's so funny, you know.
I think we just all are afraid of admitting, like, there's, you know, well, this happened, and what does that mean for me? Does that show some kind of weakness? Or and you're right, you know, these layers that we experience as a child, or you know, or in our first jobs, and it really shapes how we react and you know, evolve as adults. And it's an ongoing challenge, you know. And I don't know. Imagine, you know, fast forward to now and that incident happening and somebody filming it and putting it on social media. So you've got to relive that moment over and over. It's not a secret that remains for 40 years, which is terribly confronting for our kids these days.
Yeah, it is, Kate. And that, when you know, it is just through communication and telling these stories. You know, you see someone and you think they've got it all together, but there's things that have happened to them that have shaped and who they are, and things that they've come through, and they're not perfect, and things that, you know, have happened that have been embarrassing or that they're too scared to admit. And I think when we tell those stories about ourselves, other people, like, you know, especially kids, well, I'm not so bad after all, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, you know, parents really need to model good behaviour. If you want to see some poor behaviour, hop onto any community Facebook page. I feel like all of them should be scrapped, where everybody has a fake name and their silver dolphin 469 has a complaint about something. And, you know, none of this is modelling decent behaviour. You know, if you actually have a real issue, go and address it. And it scares me to think that there's children, you know, watching this sort of stuff thinking, well, it's a community group, you know. But yeah, you are exactly right with sometimes just sharing an experience can make someone feel so much more worthy. And I think it's really easy to forget how powerful our words are. You know, we forget that, you know, we can make someone feel so at ease and strong and loved with a kind word or a compliment and something so genuine as an honest story. And it doesn't matter whether it's online or face to face. If it's unkind or exclusive, the effects can roll on for years and be quite detrimental, as we know.
Hey, I just want to get back to the support that, especially that Do It For Dolly Day has. And a few years ago, I went and spoke at this on your behalf in Collinsville, and I think I told you at the time, it's just amazing. All these beautiful women came together. Everyone was wearing blue. Everything was blue. The cake, all the food, and actually, I'll just show you this. It still sits in my office. So this little butterfly.
Oh, I have that in my bedroom.
I sent you all one, and you know it's there as a reminder. But someone crocheted these in Collinsville, and every single person that came to that morning tea received one, and it just blows me away. Is there something from this year that stands out for you that you was really special?
There's so many special things. I mean, um, what are some great ones? So there's a gentleman in Darwin who's lost an arm through illness who swam 100 laps for Dolly. I just think the dedication and grit to do something like that is absolutely incredible. Now, I'm pretty soft, so any kids that have made cupcakes or blue anything, you know, you guys melt my heart. But the number of stations makes me really teary. Um, you know, to see cattle stations from literally the West Australian coast right through the Kimberley, the NT, right through Queensland, doing their little bit, their blue morning tea, to have all their, you know, their ringers all decked out in blue. I just think that is just absolutely incredible. And then to be in Sydney and have, you know, the likes of Bulla ice creams coming on board as a corporate support. It was 6 degrees and raining in Colac when we were trying to do scoops of kindness with them, but you know, kids and ice cream, whatever. Um, some other unique things. We had a young family do a little skit, and where the kids have acted out, you know, being kind and shaking hands and checking in on their mates. And I just thought the message was absolutely adorable. I hope that goes viral. That was amazing. We've had cricket days and golf days and get-togethers. And at the end of the day, it is really all about community. It's not so much about the event, but you know, every single one is so special. I feel like I don't have the imagination that these people have. Like that lady that crocheted butterflies is incredible. Like what are we going to do when we don't have any ladies that want to crochet butterflies? But
Exactly.
another unique one, we've got this group of young guys that have said they're going to run the Gold Coast Marathon in their jeans, their work shirts, and their big hats to raise money for Dolly's Dream. And I have run a marathon, and it is really hard work. There's a lot of grit goes into it. I feel like we probably need to send a care package with some anti-chafe creams in there or something to take the wolf bite away once it's done, because if you can chafe in Lycra, you can chafe in denim.
Gosh,
But
that's just amazing, isn't it? The
it's
mindset of people.
incredible, absolutely incredible. So I'm so excited. I'm not sure that I'm going to be free the week of the Gold Coast Marathon, but I would love nothing more than to be on that finish line and see those guys cross. That would probably make me cry, actually.
Yeah. I'll have to try and catch up with them after the event to see how, you know,
Absolutely,
get them to talk us
absolutely.
through.
Well, look,
Um,
Lewis would be he would be up for having a chat. That's what he does.
that's incredible. One of the things that stood out for me was there was this darling little girl who she was eating a blue cupcake, but she'd written a song. So in between eating the cupcake, she sang this song and she put it up on Facebook. Oh my gosh, I nearly cried. It was just so sweet.
Was that Tom Curtin's little girl who was
Yes, yes, it was.
yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Miss Lottie,
yeah.
she's great. She's going to be our future ambassador, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, she was just so confident. And Kate, what do you think Dolly would think of all of this?
Oh, that's a hard question. Do you know what? I think Dolly had a way of bringing people together. My girls couldn't be any more different if they tried. Um, you know, Meg still has the same five friends, I'm sure. Meg is very comfortable in her, you know, her own company. Whereas as little kids, Dolly would have all and sundry, you know, come back to the trailer. You'd go to a camp draft and you might not know anyone. And before the first day is over, there's 20 kids have, you know, eaten all the cold meat or made toast with every piece of bread you took for the entire weekend, and they're all up in the trailer, watching a movie or whatever, and there's Dolly there bringing them all together. And I I sometimes think things haven't changed. Like, here she is still bringing people together for no good reason at all. Like, it is for a good reason, but Dole just had this way of getting people to come together. And I just think it's just rubbish that we had to lose her for her to continue to do that. Um, but I don't know, maybe she knows that this was what she was meant to be doing, is bringing people together. It's just unfortunate that it had to be mine. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, Kate. I think she definitely knew that was her role. Mm. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's I you see people come and go in the charity space, and you've got to acknowledge the hard work that they do. And we've seen, like Rosie Batty. I know when we first started, I had admired her work for so long, and she chose to move through that part of her life. But I don't ever I don't ever think that anyone should look at or scrutinize people that step into these roles and then choose to step away, because every inch of ground gained there is benefits, and there will be benefits for many years. And I I don't think that Tick and I will ever step away completely out of Dolly's dream at all. But gosh, it's a tough slog some days when when you think, how our child, or why us. But right before Do It For Dolly Day this year, we actually received a message from a young girl, explaining what a dark and awful place that she had been in due to bullying. And she says, I literally did not want to be here, which, for me to read that from a child is heartbreaking, from anyone, but especially a child. And she said, my friend showed me the Dolly Stream video, and that there is a helpline, and I am in a much better place, and I'm going to be okay. And I think while you get those messages and you're reaching people and you are, changing lives, that's another day that you just strap on the boots and get on with it, and keep marching ahead. So, and we've got a really good team as well. So, that kind of support us as much as they do everything else. So yeah, it's a big job, but I think little Doll would be pretty proud, because people are still coming together for Doll.
And I don't think there's anyone in any corner of Australia who doesn't know who Dolly Everett is.
I know, right? Like, she got what she wanted.
Yeah. Oh, Kate, thank you so much for catching up today on, oh gosh, you always blow me away. And especially with your stamina, it's like you're running an eternal marathon,
Yeah.
but just because you have so much other stuff going on as well. But
Well, it is a little bit like a marathon, but you've just got to you just have to keep going till the next water station, right?
even if you have got your work clothes on.
Exactly.
Oh,
No,
gosh.
it's been wonderful to catch up. Thank you very much. And
Thanks,
I
Kate.
can't wait to maybe chat again when we get our bush to boarding program up and running. That would be amazing to share.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then also, for anybody that is listening and does want some support, our new support line is 13 Dolly. So for anyone, anywhere, no referrals, and you get qualified help. So please don't think that you're all alone. We do have that there to support parents as well. For parents, it's 6 a.m. till midnight, but for children, it is 24/7.
What an incredible service. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Kel.